Now it's time for another edition of What Would Jello Do? For the fourth time recently, our petty, intentionally nasty medieval Supreme Court has gone behind everybody's backs and in the middle of the night, in this case, blown up Roe v. Wade and put women's right to choose, women's reproductive rights, firmly in the hands of the American version of the Taliban. Yes, I'm talking about Texas, soon to be Florida, Georgia, Ohio, Alabama, Mississippi, you name it. That's the idea. Don't wait until you decide the Mississippi case and give a long formal opinion. Just throw a cluster bomb out there and roll it into the middle of a bunch of people and see what happens and see who, if anybody, survives. It isn't just so nasty that even if your uncle rapes you, you have to keep the kid if you don't find out you're pregnant in the first 6 weeks when nobody knows they're pregnant. Doesn't matter if you were raped, it's God's gift and you have to do it anyway. Or if you try to exercise your right to terminate a pregnancy, still your right under the still on the books Roe v. Wade, they authorize vigilantes, bounty hunters, to come after you. And then if they report anybody who helped you, even an Uber driver who drove you to a clinic, and you can bet they're going to be waiting at state lines to see who goes back and forth. Oh, that's that same woman in the back of the car. Oh, and she isn't white either. Let's go get him. Wee-ha! We get another $10,000 bounty from them. That's what makes it so sick. There isn't even a mechanism in the law for the state government or police to enforce it. It's all in the hands of bounty hunters to go crazy in ways only people in Texas, who also just authorize you can carry guns anywhere and open carry without ever having to get a license or learn how to use a gun. Won't this be fun? Everybody's in danger the minute one of those clowns walks into a restaurant or a music show, as if I'm ever going to play another one in Texas, if there's going to be guns in the room, that sort of thing. So now what do we do? Well, first of all, somebody seems to be pranking the bounty hunters already. Texas Right to Life already put up a site where you can turn in people who have been helping women terminate pregnancies. We want all their names and we're going to go get them. Yee-haw! And so somebody had a robo one turning in Governor Greg Abbott, or Governor Abattoir as I call him, over and over and over again. Somebody else who shall not be named turned in Joel Osteen, I don't know how many times. You get the idea. One way to combat this is pure and simple sabotage. But blowing up Roe v. Wade, which they intend to do anyway, the right-wingers with the guns and the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys are talking about civil war. Well, this will be a civil Cold War, I hope not, where there's going to be pro-choice states and Handmaid's Tale states, and there's going to be people watching the borders, laws they've already put into effect in places like Missouri where it's illegal to transport somebody across state lines to get an abortion, and things like that. Bottom line is, long term, the only good I can see coming from this is people get so mad, even somebody as supposedly safe as Rand Paul gets bounced out of Congress in the next election, along with a whole bunch of other people. So hopefully there's a majority of pro-choice national legislators the size there was after Obama won in 2008. Now it's iffy. House will pass the Right to Choose Act possibly within a week or two. But then there's the Senate, isn't there? Uncle Mitch wants his claws in your womb and everybody else's womb. And so does Josh Hawley. And unfortunately, at least one or two Democrats too are anti-choice. Bob Casey from Pennsylvania, and I think our buddy Joe Manchin is too. There's a couple of pro-choice Republicans, Murkowski and Susan Collins, but then when push came to shove, at least one of them caved and let Amy Coney Barrett get in to do this decision in the first place. Susan Collins, who Al Jorgensen rightly described as a wet diaper of a person. So long term, got to get enough people in to get it in and make sure there's finally another speaker who's on the side of actually getting it done. This could have been done like that when there was a big Senate majority and a big House majority after Obama swept in 2008. They could have gotten it through before the 2010 elections. But of course, guess who? That witch Pelosi, again, off the table, off the table. No, that's off the table. We don't need that. We just need to get health care done and make sure Wall Street banks get plenty of money after the recession. And like so many other things, otherwise that was it. Although maybe they did pass some stuff. The House did pass some good things. And then it was sleepy old Harry Reid running the Senate who didn't bother to take up perfectly good bills. I think he was anti-choice too, by the way. You see where I'm going with this. The Supreme Court used these same tactics to wipe out DACA when they were trying to bring that back and get rid of the ban on evictions just in time to get, there's as many as 750,000 people in danger of being evicted. And the number of people in this country behind on their rent is estimated to be between 2.5 and 3 million. So and then there's the fourth one, possibly even worse long term than what they just did with Texas. And this is a real Supreme Court ruling, not a sneaky thing where they allow a law to take effect before it's litigated in court, which even John Roberts was against when it came to that Texas law. I think it's called a little pocket ruling or something like that. Hardly ever used until this one, but expect a lot more of them from the Dirty Three that Trump put in, and then the other ones as well, who finally smell Christian Taliban running the United States, and they're the mullahs. So the other really bad one is Cedar Point Nurseries versus Hasid, where the Supreme Court ruled against very recent precedent, and precedent before that, and precedent before that, against the right of a union person to come onto the property of Cedar Point Nurseries, which is a great big operation with lots and lots of workers who might want to get some rights and be paid. No, you can't do that anymore, but the reasoning is the scary part. The Fifth Amendment, aside from not having to testify against yourself and stuff like that, that's the amendment that deals with what they call takings, better known as eminent domain. You know, if the government wants to put a freeway and bulldoze your house in order to do it because that's the route, then and take it by eminent domain, they have to pay you for the loss of your property. That's a taking. Well, apparently now, even undesirable people talking union, tromping, and they say trespassing now, onto Cedar Point Nurseries or another business, it's a taking. And the government has to compensate Cedar Point for the taking. How that constitutes a taking, I don't know. But you can guess who's been, itching to put takings into this position for decades now. Strip miners, polluters, and even schools, religious schools, and companies that say, oh yeah, well, letting a homosexual on our property or letting a disabled student into our school that we have to accommodate, that's a taking and we should be compensated. In other words, this is a hole so big, it's specifically designed as a Koch brothers and, Federalist Society and James Watt and Coors family and Wet Dream to drive a truck through every single environmental law ever passed in this country. Every single endangered species law, every single right to organize law, every single right to go into a slaughterhouse and shut them down if they're too filthy in there, or if they're cutting too many workers' hands off because they're sloppy with the machinery. No more. That's all the taking now. And they can just sue the government for the loss of profits, which also means you're an oil company, you're a scam artist who wants to log or something like that. All you have to do is say, well, we're about to do this on this land. Try stopping us, because if you do, you got to pay us. Which also means they can claim they're about to strip mine half of Utah without ever actually intending to do it, so they can just bankrupt all us taxpayers to pay them for so-called takings. Yeah. On the other hand, even if we find a way to get rid of this, that may be back on the front burner anyway, because that exact mechanism to shake down countries to pay off companies not to strip mine or drill the Great Barrier Reef in Australia or whatever was baked into the Trans-Pacific Partnership, negotiations of which are still going on, but we're not part of it anymore because in one of the few good things he did, Trump pulled us out of the Trans-Pacific Partnership. But among those who lobbied very heavily at the time to keep us in were people like Barack Obama and Joe Biden. So watch out, folks. The Trans-Pacific Partnership may soon be back on the table.